Your concerts have been described as a party. It's community, isn't it?
It's an easy way out to describe it. There is that element, but it is a community.
He's the barefoot sensation whose determination catapulted him from a modest village to fame and fortune. From sun-drenched island venues to East Tennessee dirt roads, Kenny Chesney developed a culture, not just a profession. Sunglasses and beach music may give the impression of carefreeness, but there's a lot more going on behind the scenes. Heartache, hustle, and an unexpected turning point before the beach vibes and platinum trophies. He continues to sell out gigs in minutes despite receiving accolades, criticism, arrest, and awards. How, however, did a shy little boy from Luttrell grow up to become the most chill superstar in country music? Here is the untold story of Kenny Chesney. And believe us, it's not what you think. So grab your flip-flops and get comfy. But don't get too comfortable. Simple origins. Kenny Chesney's debut performance occurred at St. Mary's Medical Center in Knoxville, Tennessee, where he was born Kenneth Arnold Chesney on March 26, 1968. His true home was in the peaceful rural setting of Luttrell, Tennessee, a little village nestled in the state's eastern corner, even though he was born in a large metropolitan hospital. Luttrell lacked ostentation and slowed down considerably, but it made up for it with a wealth of traditional Southern values and a strong sense of community that shapes who we are. In this little town, everyone knows your name. Country music is always playing in the background, and nothing is more important than spending time on the front porch or watching a football game on a Friday. Long before he ever picked up a guitar, one of the future greats of country music understood the rhythms of life in that little corner of Tennessee. Hard effort and modesty were instilled in Kenny by his humble family as he grew up in a working-class household. The stability that his father, David Chesney, brought to the family as an elementary school teacher, and the hands-on approach that his mother, Karen Chandler, brought to her business as a hairstylist, were both important influences. Jennifer Chandler, Kenny's younger sister, was a pleasant companion who shared in all the highs and lows of small-town living. Kenny frequently expresses gratitude to his parents for the firmly foundational effect they had on him in interviews. Church on Sundays, school throughout the week, and athletics practically every day were the three mainstays of Luttrell life. Furthermore, the region's near-religious experience with Tennessee football was paramount. There was a profound influence on Kenny's personality and imagination from the area's culture, which was uncomplicated, honest, and very Southern. When he was younger, Kenny wasn't the carefree beach bum that fans know and love now. Actually, at first, music wasn't even considered. He belonged to the same small-town athletic fraternity as everyone else at Gibbs High School. He was a fierce competitor in baseball and football who would take that same mentality into his music career. His humble, practical demeanor is on full display in his joke about quit growing when he was a junior in high school and said he's the same size now as he was then. The world of sports was his refuge, his passion, and his initial aspiration. Back when he was a teenager, all he had was dusty fields, high school sports, and dreams of becoming a stadium-filling country star. There were no spotlights or music awards to indicate this. Kenny Chesney was, in many respects, no different from any other Southern youth who was seeking acceptance and touchdowns. However, his entire life was transformed when he got a guitar for Christmas. Little did he realize that present would alter his destiny. Kenny jumped right in, even though most youngsters would have put it aside. He studied the guitar on his own, picking up chords and tunes with an air of calm resolve and natural interest. What began as a pastime soon became into an obsession. Suddenly, music was more than just noise. It was a source of inspiration, a way to express oneself, and a goal to strive for. Although it took some time, the change was noticeable. The once proud athlete from a tiny town started to develop into a vocalist and composer over time. The world was oblivious to what was about to happen, but in Luttrell, a boy who had previously believed that athletics were his sole option, the seeds of Kenny Chesney's future fame were sown. Once enthralled by football, The young man was now smitten with a new rhythm that would take him well beyond the reach of any end zone. His narrative went from Friday night lights to late-night songs with the help of an unexpected gift. An unanticipated flame. It was a Christmas present that Kenny Chesney received in silence, not beneath the bright lights of a stadium full of shouting fans, but it was the moment that changed his life. A seemingly little gift that would change his life forever was his first guitar, which he opened that year. While most youngsters would have given it a week of playtime and then put it aside, Kenny was the complete opposite. Instead of letting the guitar gather dust, he taught himself to play it by systematically going over each string and chord. His life took a turn from football fields to honky-tonk stages at the start of a new chapter. The aha moment, when he realized music might be more than just a pastime, ignited a fire within him that would never go out. While Kenny's first aspiration may have been in athletics, he soon discovered that music held an irresistible pull that sports could never equal. Writing songs and playing them became an outlet for his emotions and a kind of liberation as his guitar skills improved. This devotion grew during his time at Johnson City's East Tennessee State University. Even though Kenny declared a degree in advertising, he learned the ropes on stage. He began performing around town after enrolling in the school's bluegrass department, where he began to hone his sound and establish a reputation for himself. The activity, which had started off as a pastime, was obviously taking a more serious turn. Instead of waiting for opportunities to present themselves, Kenny created his own luck. He went to a small studio in Bristol, Virginia called Classic Recording Studio in 1989 to record his debut project, a self-released demo album called Good Old Boy at Heart. This was before he had a record deal or label support. He paid for the pressing of 1,000 copies out of his own pocket and sold them personally while performing in clubs around Johnson City. Just one man, his guitar, and his ambition. No public relations department or massive organization was in his corner. His early dedication to reinvesting in his own artistic growth was demonstrated by the fact that every CD he sold not only helped support his passion, but also paid for a brand new guitar. These formative moments laid the groundwork for Kenny's ascent, both musically and psychologically. He saw personally the importance of seizing every chance as he performed in tiny bars, sold demo CDs, and juggled school. Success like this didn't happen by accident. It required hard work, planning, and perseverance. The rock-solid character and devoted fan base that Kenny is known for today are both products of his humble beginnings. Kenny Chesney was once just another idealist who composed songs in the vain hope that someone would hear it, long before he became a dominant force in country music, raising one's status. Kenny Chesney sent his guitar and aspirations to Johnson City's East Tennessee State University to study advertising after finishing Gibbs High School. But let's be real, he never intended to work his way up to an office job. He began to really form his musical personality throughout his time at university. He became an accomplished musician and a proud brother of the Lambda Chi Alpha fraternity after enrolling in the school's bluegrass department. Kenny turned his dorm room strumming into barroom shows while juggling school and fraternity life. He discovered his groove playing at local venues. His time at university was more than simply accumulating credits. It was also the foundation upon which a future country music star built his stage presence and signature sound. Investing in himself was one of the most significant moves Kenny made at this period. He recorded Good Old Boy at Heart, a self-released demo album at Classic Recording Studio in Bristol, Virginia, in 1989 using his own money. He saw music as more than simply a hobby. It was his livelihood. Instead of drinking and having a good time for the short term, Kenny used the $1,000 he made from selling the CD at local pubs to purchase a new guitar. His early work ethic taught him that he would have to earn success gig after performance and song after song. The risk of making music more than a pastime required these late evenings, frequenting local watering holes, and reinvesting every dime. In March 1991, Kenny got his big break at an audition at the Bluebird Cafe, a legendary Nashville venue that showcased undiscovered talent. After the show, he was invited to perform regularly at the Turf Music City's most rowdy watering hole. It lacked glitz and was downright grimy. Kenny began to slowly but surely break into Nashville's cutthroat music industry, one bar at a time. He didn't have any flashy endorsements, but his genuine performances were creating buzz. Clay Bradley, who was in charge of writer relations at BMI, heard of Kenny's abilities in 1992. After Kenny auditioned with 5 original songs, Troy Tomlinson, an agent at Opryland Music Group, was smitten thanks to Bradley's introduction. In addition to applauding, he immediately handed Kenny a songwriter's contract. The first major door was opened by that important industrial link. Kenny earned his first recording deal with Capricorn Records, which had recently launched a country division, at the conclusion of a songwriting showcase he attended a year later. This wasn't a series of fortunate events. Rather, it was the culmination of all the risks Kenny had made, all the songs he had written, and all the nights he had spent worrying about failing. Explosion period. In My Wildest Dreams, Kenny Chesney's debut studio album, released in 1994 under Capricorn Records, marked his formal entrance into the country music world. Despite the album's lackluster chart performance, it was a watershed moment. Kenny had gone from playing in dive bars and songwriter showcases to the national stage. He showcased his narrative skills and unique sound, laid back yet emotionally rich, in this effort, which set the stage for all that came after. Not only did it provide the groundwork for future endeavors, but it also offered him an opportunity to demonstrate that he was more than your average Tennessee artist with big dreams. The turning point occurred in 1995, a year later, when Kenny joined forces with BNA Records, a decision that utterly altered the trajectory of the industry. His follow-up album, All I Need to Know, was far more successful than his debut. Kenny wasn't only constructing a career, he was gathering momentum, as seen by the album's eventual gold certification and the popularity of the title single. People seeking genuine entertainment found it in his voice, energy, and accessible songs. Because his ascent seemed genuine and unforced, his supporters were much more enthralled by him. What came next was even more momentum. Released in 1996, the third album, Me and You, went platinum. The following year, I Will Stand, which also garnered considerable praise, was released. Fans started to perceive him as more than simply a beachy country singer after hearing songs like Me and You and That's Why I'm Here, which displayed a more sensitive and emotional side to his talent. Songs like Everywhere We Go, 1999, No Shoes, No Shirt, No Problems, 2002, and When the Sun Goes Down, 2004, established Kenny as a formidable country music competitor by the early 2000s. He was able to carve out a special place in an oversaturated genre by fusing island style with southern comfort, giving his music a distinct sound that listeners could get behind. Several prestigious accolades were bestowed upon Kenny throughout this period of his career. He was one of just a handful of artists to win 4 CMA Entertainer of the Year awards and 2 ACM Entertainer of the Year awards in a row from 2005 to 2008. The 6 Grammy nominations he received only served to strengthen his already impressive consistency and widespread appeal. His concerts were electric, joyous extravaganzas because of the profound bond he had with his audience, which was unlike any other period of his career. Kenny became a record-breaking legend and a breakout artist as a result of this, setting the stage for a career that will last forever. Superstar status and unparalleled notoriety. A string of landmark albums defined Kenny Chesney's zenith of stardom and catapulted him to the pinnacle of country music and beyond. Despite initial success, it wasn't until 2002's No Shoes, No Shirt, No Problems that things really started to take off. Hits like Young and Title Track helped propel the album to platinum status, and his 2004 follow-up, When the Sun Goes Down, continued the trend with even bigger singles that defined a generation of listeners who found solace in country music. Kenny went from being just a country musician to a cultural phenomenon thanks to these albums, which demonstrated his talent for combining emotional narrative with a carefree, beach-influenced sound. His continually disappointing blockbuster tours solidified his larger-than-life image. Kenny transformed live performances into once-in-a-lifetime events on his many tours, including the critically acclaimed Flip Flop Summer Tour, the Big Revival Tour, and the No Shoes Nation Tour. Stadiums all throughout the country were selling out his shows. The beachy atmosphere, barefoot performances, and raucous audiences that accompanied his concerts came to represent summer. Kenny was named Billboard's Top Package Tour Artist 5 years in a row from 2005 to 2009, and he repeated the feat in 2011, 2012, and 2015. Very few musicians across all genres have been as consistently successful on tour for as long as that artist has. Kenny Chesney left behind more than just music and shows. He created an ardent following known as the No Shoes Nation, with his blend of tropical country music and chill feelings. Wearing a cowboy hat, a sleeveless shirt, and flip-flops, he created an image that represents liberation, simplicity, and escape. All sorts of carefree activities, from raucous road trips to crazy beach parties, could be heard in his songs. Even while some traditionalists questioned his patriotism, his legion of devoted admirers turned him into a lifestyle ambassador in addition to a musician. With a net worth of $180 million, 30 #1 hits on Billboard Hot Country Songs and Country Airplay, and over 30 million albums sold, Kenny's commercial achievements are evident. He is still one of the most bankable stars in the business decades into his career, with $87 million, nearly $90 million, earned in 2022 alone. He won 4 CMA Entertainer of the Year awards, 4 ACM Entertainer of the Year awards in a row from 2005 to 2008, and received 6 Grammy nominations, all while retaining the infectiously fun personality that won over his fans in the first place. Kenny Chesney not only made it to the top, but he also changed the definition of success by overcoming overwhelming odds. Everyday battles revealed. Although Kenny Chesney is known for his carefree lifestyle and upbeat songs, he has had private struggles that are never reported in the media. Among the most shocking disclosures was when Kenny revealed his severe vision problems during an interview on The Ellen DeGeneres Show. Even during his own concerts, he can only see the front 20 seats, so he misses a lot of the hand gestures and signs from his fans. He seems to see everyone by waving and smiling, but in reality, he frequently acts more on instinct than sight. Even when speaking in front of thousands, he has stayed silent about the subject because of his deep-seated phobia of corrective eye surgery. Kenny hasn't kept all of his problems to himself. In 2000, he and fellow country music artist Tim McGraw were arrested in Buffalo, New York, in what was one of the more bizarre and well-publicized events of his career. Kenny, acting on an impulse, got on a police horse without authorization, which caused a confrontation with the cops and ultimately led to the arrest of both artists. This bizarre incident made headlines. The episode became media fodder and briefly damaged Kenny's usually pristine reputation, even though the charges were dismissed the next year. Someone whose reputation was founded on easygoing charisma felt shockingly out of place in the mugshot. That data will remain in training until October 2023, I can assure you. Strange as it may seem, fame does cost. While climbing to unprecedented heights in his profession, Kenny attempted to manage the emotional demands of public life by projecting an image that was somehow positive and laid back, despite the fact that life today offered him anything but that. Caught between the public gaze of his fame and the private misery he believed he deserved, he sang upbeat songs that seemed to make him renowned, but he was actually tormented between these two extremes. Still, Kenny has shown incredible perseverance in the face of all the hardship. Instead of letting failures define him, he has sought out more self-awareness and widened his worldview. He has matured into a person who gives careful consideration to his health and well-being when making decisions, who keeps himself anchored via strong personal relationships, and who seeks solitude when he needs it. Those familiar with his biography, however, know that he is a guy who has undergone considerably more than what he shows to the public. He often stays silent about his struggles. Even icons have invisible burdens, and strength is frequently evaluated by what we overcome rather than by what we project. Kenny's fight serves as a reminder of this in a culture that prizes the concept of perfection, romantic, exciting rides. Both the women he has dated and his approach to relationship issues have always piqued fans' interest in Kenny Chesney's love life. In 2005, he shocked the public with his shocking beach wedding to Hollywood actress Renee Zellweger, marking his most prominent relationship to that point. A real-life fairy tale came to reality when a country superstar and an Oscar-winning actress were announced as a couple. However, the couple's decision to seek an annulment only 4 months later shattered the illusion and set off a cascade of wild conjecture that swiftly became unfounded. The rapidity of the split wasn't what caused the split to become a media sensation. It was the inclusion of the word fraud in the annulment documents. This legalese was commonplace in some instances, but it set the internet ablaze with speculation and gossip. Speculation in the gossip columns was both invasive and frequently cruel, touching on topics such as marital infidelity and Kenny's sexuality. The phrase was only legalese, not an accusation of misconduct, as both Renee and Kenny subsequently explained. Although public opinion had already made its verdict, Kenny was entangled in a media frenzy he hadn't bargained for. It was after that Kenny gingerly addressed the topic. He said, in an unusually vulnerable moment, that he did not fully understand the meaning of marriage when he was younger, in an interview with Anderson Cooper for 60 Minutes. He was unprepared and acknowledged that he was clumsy. It was his own mistake to believe he had a firm grasp on the meaning of marriage, he explained to the journalist. Because of his candor, his admirers got to see his more introspective side. He went into further detail about his unwillingness to address the claims, explaining that he didn't want to douse the fires or let anybody else define him. Kenny has been tight-lipped about his romantic relationships ever since. From 2008 until 2010, rumors circulated that he was seeing Amy Colley, the former Miss Tennessee. However, nobody paid any attention to the connection. Mary Nolan, a dancer and model, has been his significant other since 2012. There have been 0 public appearances, social media mentions, or remarks on the couple's relationship since they keep it so quiet. Kenny appears to be purposefully shielding himself and his loved ones from the spotlight by avoiding the media at all costs, which is in stark contrast to his previous behavior. Kenny has decided that love and peace are more essential than fame and fortune, and that they should flourish away from the prying eyes of the media. Disagreements and conflicts in the industry. Conflicts within the country music industry, particularly over accolades and credit, have affected even the most successful artists, like Kenny Chesney. An iconic event happened at the 2008 ACM Awards when, instead of letting industry insiders decide who would win Entertainer of the Year, the Academy opened the voting to fans. Even though he had won Entertainer of the Year numerous times before, Kenny was not afraid to voice his displeasure. He thought that industry achievement, not popularity contests, should choose the recipient of such a distinguished honor. Although his remarks caused a stir, they also revealed a more fundamental chasm between established gatekeepers and the increasingly powerful fan-driven platforms. Even Kenny has managed to tread carefully between abandoning his origins and embracing fame and fortune. Those who believed in the purity of country music accused him of becoming too commercial as his success skyrocketed. Critics said he was trying to water down the genre with his beachy sound, big stadium tours, and crossover appeal. On the other hand, Kenny never wavered from his ever-changing style. By fusing traditional country narrative with carefree, escapism-themed elements, he wholeheartedly embraced his island country fusion. Kenny didn't want to sell out. He only wanted to be true to the feelings and way of life that motivated him. Not everyone shared his vision, though. Actually, traditionalists frequently argued with him, claiming that his music was too glossy, too beachy, and too far from the genre's twangy origins. The No Shoes Nation, Kenny's loyal followers, remained with him through the arguments, enjoying his youthful enthusiasm and easygoing, friendly demeanor. Fans knew that Kenny was doing more than simply being a part of American country music. He was changing it, even though Nashville was slow to completely embrace him as one of its own. In 2016, when Kenny was presented with the Pinnacle Award, a distinction bestowed upon performers who have attained the pinnacle of country music success, the most extreme reaction occurred. While most people thought it was a great moment, Beyoncé's fans, the Bayhive, were upset because they thought she was unfairly kept out of that year's CMAs. The subsequent internet backlash was more about the significance of Kenny's victory in the continuing discussion of racism, genre inclusion, and acknowledgement than it was about him personally. Kenny, who had been mostly silent during the tempest, replied with grace, praising Beyoncé's creativity and modestly mentioning how easily fans might misunderstand people's intentions. The ever-changing world of celebrity and industry politics can turn even idols into targets, as this episode shows. Giving back and finding salvation. Kenny Chesney has established a reputation for charitable work that goes beyond his notoriety, record sales, and sold-out concerts. He donated nearly $1 million to many Massachusetts NGOs in 2024, including animal rescues, Boston Medical Center, and local fire and police agencies, making headlines for his great deed of philanthropy. Unlike other famous people, Kenny has never used his fame to promote a contribution. Instead, he has kept his approach quiet and genuine. His work demonstrates a strong commitment to helping others and an eagerness to utilize his celebrity to bring attention to underdog issues. The aftermath of devastating natural disasters gave rise to one of Kenny's most impactful charitable endeavors. Due to his Love for Love City Foundation, Kenny took a major stand when the catastrophic storms hit the United States and the British Virgin Islands. Residents who had lost almost everything received vital help from the foundation in the form of food, medical supplies, and transportation. This took on a more personal significance for Kenny than a purely charitable one. He had a deep connection to the Virgin Islands after spending so much time there. In times of need, he helped the locals out just as he would any family member. He demonstrated a degree of activity based on personal connection and urgency in his reaction, in addition to being generous. In the background, Kenny has been subtly building a legacy via his varied charitable work, which is sometimes overshadowed by the glamour of his musical accomplishments. Conservation projects in the national parks, MusiCares, ACM Lifting Lives, Farm Aid, Kids Wish Network, and others have been his close collaborators. From aiding musicians in times of need to sponsoring programs for sick children, his efforts are wide-ranging. These actions are part of a larger pattern of him consistently utilizing his influence to help others, particularly when they are down and out. There has been a subtle but forceful redemptive arc to Kenny's continuous journey, despite the occasional blunders, such as an ill-advised annulment and public spats with industry giants. Modern-day personal life. Kenny's life away from the spotlight is just as quiet and tranquil as his music, which is full of energy and passion. He lives the beach life he sings about when he's not traveling or doing music. He often finds himself in tropical locations. He has made the U.S. and British Virgin Islands, particularly St. John, his second home, a refuge from the stresses of fame and fortune. His ties to the U.S. and the islands go deep. In direct contrast to the mayhem of celebrity, Kenny's offstage life is all about escape and tranquility. Whether he's making music, yachting, or just sitting by the sea. Why then does Kenny Chesney want to live a life of solitude when his shows consistently sell out thousands of tickets? These are inner struggles for a guy like him, who must always contend with the effects of the trauma he has suffered. He has realized that solitude is the key to a life free of stardom, heartache, gossip, and unending public scrutiny. The constant scrutiny from his fans makes it hard to have real, down-to-earth conversations, as he has said in interviews. In his personal life, Kenny takes great effort to avoid the scrutiny of others so that he may be authentic. Not a performer, not a star, just Kenny from Luttrell, Tennessee. Please subscribe for more behind-the-music tales. Like the video if you appreciated learning about Kenny Chesney's undiscovered story, and comment with your favorite Chesney moment. Stay still and keep the country music playing by clicking the video that appears next.